right, so yesterday we talked about angles and how to name angles and congruent angles and angle bisectors. So today we're going to talk about a couple of different types of angles. The first one we're going to talk about is what we call adjacent angles. Okay, so that is A, D, J, A, C, E, N, T. Adjacent angles. It's good. It's just taking a while. Got it. All right, so what does it mean to be adjacent to something? Adjacent. Next to, nearby. They're close. They're right next to each other. So if two things are adjacent, they are right next to each other. So it says adjacent angles are two angles that lie in the same plane. So you want to fill in the word same there. Scare me. They have. What's the matter? Okay. They have a common end point and a common side, but they have no common interior points. Okay. Adjacent angles are two angles that lie in the same plane. They have a common end point, a common side, but have no common interior points. So I have pictures of examples of what a pair of adjacent angles would look like and what a pair of adjacent angles would not look like. So let's talk about the example. Okay, first of all, they share a vertex. Okay, they share one corner, and they share a side. Okay, do you notice how they share that same side there, that same ray? But angle 1 is the distance from here to here that I'm putting in blue. And then angle 2 is the distance between here and here. So therefore, they do not share any interior points. They share an end point and they share a side. So adjacent angles are always angles that are right next to each other. Do you want me to turn that off? No? So in this picture, angle 1 and angle 2 are what we call adjacent angles. Do you notice how angle 1 and 2 in the non-examples, like they're close to each other, but they don't actually touch? You see that? So even though they're next to each other, they don't touch, so they're not considered adjacent angles. Adjacent angles have to share one side, so they have to touch each other. Everybody okay with that? All right, next is what we call a linear pair. A linear pair is a pair of adjacent angles, so they have to be touching, with non-common sides that are opposite rays. Again, I have an example of what a linear pair looks like, and then I have an example of what a linear pair does not look like. It says that the non-common sides are opposite rays. Basically, the non-common sides form a straight line, because isn't that what opposite rays form? A straight line? How many degrees would a linear pair equal? What would that angle 1 and angle 2 add up to equal? 180, because a straight line is 180. A linear pair is also 180. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair here. Do you notice how in the non-example that those two sides don't make a straight line? Over here on the left, I mean the right side. The bottom lines here, the non-adjacent sides or the non-shared sides, those don't make a straight line, do they? Okay, so that's why that's not a linear pair. Here, in this first one, the non-adjacent sides or the non-shared sides do make a straight line. And then to fill that bottom part in, the sum of the angle measures of the two linear pairs is always going to be 180. And then they just gave you an example here. If that's 45, then that would have to be 135 in order to give me a total of 180. You're going to use that information a lot. And so don't ever forget that a linear pair is always 180 degrees. So we have adjacent angles. They share an endpoint, they share a side. We have a linear pair, which is an adjacent pair, but they make a straight line, so they equal 180 degrees. And then the next type of angles that we are going to discuss are called vertical angles. So the vertical angles are the two non-adjacent, that means not next to, okay, non-adjacent is not next to, formed by two intersecting lines. So basically the way I think about it, vertical angles are across from each other. They are not next to each other. They are across from each other. They do, however, share a vertex. So if you look at that picture under the examples, which angle is directly across from angle 1? Which one? Angle 3. So in this picture, angle 1 and angle 3 are what we call vertical angles. What would be my other pair of vertical angles in that picture? 2 and 4. They are directly across from each other. There's one more thing we need to remember about vertical angles. Okay, we talked about adjacent angles. Those are just next to each other. They share an endpoint and a side. We don't know anything about their measures. Then we talked about a linear pair that we said together they give us 180 degrees. Well, vertical angles are always going to be congruent. Yep. Okay, vertical angles are always congruent. So in that picture, whatever angle 1 is, angle 3 is going to be exactly the same. So if angle 1 is 50 degrees, guess what angle 3 is going to be? 50 degrees. Also, angle 2 and angle 4 would be the same measure. If angle 2 is 110, guess what angle 4 is going to be? 110. Vertical angles are always congruent. We will use that a lot as well. Anybody have any questions? All right, flip it over. All right, we have a picture of a lamp. We've got point A over here on the far left. We've got point C on the far right. We've got E at the top, B in the middle, D at the bottom. Those are points that we can use to name some angles. The very first question is to identify a pair of adjacent angles. It says, first of all, how many pairs of adjacent angles do we see? That's the first question. Second of all, list 2. All right. And looking at that lamp, how many pairs of adjacent angles do we see? And then it asks you to just list two of them. You said three? I heard two. I heard three. You got three too? All right, I'm going to use my fingers to point, okay? So this is our lamppost. Would these two be a pair of adjacent angles? Yes, okay, so that's one, right? One pair? Right, because they share a side and they're next to each other? Do we agree? Okay. What about those two? Are those adjacent? Okay. What about those two? Yep. What about these two? So how many pairs do we have? 4. We should have 4 different pairs of adjacent angles. Does anybody need me to point that out again? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it says to name a pair. How would I name this top angle? A what? ABE, yep. So angle ABE. And I can either choose this angle here or this angle here. Let's choose this one. How would I name that angle? EBC or CBE, either way, as long as B is in the middle. This one. So ABE, that's this one right here. And then we did this one, EBC. Name one pair of vertical angles in that picture. Write it down for question B. It says to name 2, but I want you to name 1. Vertical angles. Well, that's we have the angle, not the points. You're looking at it specifically at points. It's like these two and those two. Okay, let me give you a more specific. Do you see where the 138 degrees is? Name that angle. Use the letters to name that angle. We need practice naming angles anyway. I'm telling you which one to name. Look where the 138 degrees is. I want you to name that angle. $138 degrees. How do I name that angle? I'm going to highlight it in blue. This 138 degrees, how do I name it? ABD. So angle A, B, D. And which one is across from that? EBC, exactly. Okay, so we're talking about this angle here. So this one and that one, those are the two that we just named. Those are vertical angles. And I only want you to do part of question C. Just answer the first part. How many linear pairs do you see in that picture? Don't say it out loud. Write it on your piece of paper. How many linear pairs do you see in that picture? That's the only part of that question I want you to answer. You're looking at the picture. Remember, linear pairs, those are two angles that are adjacent that make a straight line. I'm asking you to tell me how many there are. I don't want you to name any of them. Mm-hmm. What do we think? How many linear pairs do we have? 4? Is that what I heard? How many people think 4? Raise your hand. Okay. How many linear pairs are formed by that picture? So I got a couple people saying 4. Anybody saying anything else? You were just going to say 2? All right. Let me ask you this. Are these linear pairs? Are these two, do they form a straight line? Yes. Okay, so that's 1. Are those a linear pair? Yes, that's 2. Are those a linear pair? That's 3. Are those a linear pair? So how many is that? So you're right. Okay, you have to be able to move around the picture. These two on the left are a linear pair. The two on the top are a linear pair. The two on the right are a linear pair. The two on the bottom are a linear pair. Make sense? All right, if this angle ABD is 138 degrees, the next question is asking me to find out how much angle EBC is. How much? 138, why? Because they're vertical, okay? 138, they're the same. We just talked about vertical angles are the same. Now I want you to find angle ABE. That's this angle right here. I want you to try to figure it out. Okay, quick question. Most of you that I saw that have an answer have it correct. Very good. What are these two angles called? Well, one's acute. They're not vertical because they're next to each other. They're a linear pair. How much does a linear pair add up to be? 180. So if I know this is 138, how can I figure that one out? Yep, I'm going to take 180. I'm going to subtract 138. You guys need to understand this because you're going to do this a bazillion times this year. We find out that that is how many degrees? 42. Let me ask you, what would this one be? 42 as well because they are vertical angles. All right, look at your picture. It says, I'm going to let you work on this. A city planner is designing a park. He wants to place 2 pathways that intersect near the center of the park. If the measure of angle GED, so look at your picture, find angle GED, it's 88 degrees. It's actually already labeled in your picture. Does everybody see where the 88 degrees is in your picture? What it wants you to do is circle all of the true statements below from A, B, C, D, and E. Which one of those statements would be true based off of that picture and the lines in that picture? We know about linear pairs and we know about vertical angles. Linear pairs add up to be 180. vertical angles are equal. Go through and circle all of the statements that must be true based on the fact that angle GED is equal to 88 degrees. We're circling all of those to be true based on the information that the one angle is 88 degrees. Circling all that should be true based on the given information. Can I offer a suggestion? It might be beneficial and that's the information you're given. That's basically what your picture looks like, right? Without all the other extra stuff in it. Yes? Okay. It might be beneficial for you to just first figure out what all these angles are and then go back and check yourself with the questions. Okay, let's start with vertical angles. This one is 88 degrees. Its vertical angle is the one directly across from it, so what would that one be? 88 degrees. And it might be beneficial for you to jot that down. How can I figure out what this angle is? Subtract 88 from 180, yep, because they are a linear pair. And that's 92, which means this would have to also be what? 92? And then I could just go through and look at my answer choices and see if I'm correct. Or see which ones are correct, I guess I should say. Okay. It, to me, helps to label and then go through instead of trying to go through and check every question first. Because this takes about 2 minutes to, not even, 2 seconds to do, right? One's congruent, one's subtract from 180. Does everybody understand that? Question, how many degrees should those all add up to be, do you know? What shape am I making? How many degrees are in a circle? 360, right? So all of those angles should add up to be a total of 360 if you really wanted to check yourself. However, 180, those should add up to be 180, 180, 180. They all do. So let's look. Angle DEF. Angle DEF is this angle right here. For question A, it says it's 92 degrees. Is that true? Yes. I got tongue-tied, so I had to get it out and start over again. All right, DEG. DEG is this angle right here. It says that one is 92 degrees. So should I circle B? No. C says angle FEH. FEH. So this angle right here. It says it's 88 degrees. Is that true? Yes. Then D says the measure of angle DEH. DEH. That's all the way down. Is that 92 degrees? No. How much is that one? 180. And then it also says GEH. GEH. So this angle right down here is 88 degrees? No. So the only two we should have circled are A and C. Yes? All right. Angle what? I'm sorry. Angle 1 and what other angle are vertical angles? Look at your picture. We're answering question 1 at the bottom. Just jot down the answer. I'm not going to go over these just yet. I want you to jot down what you think the answer. Angle 1 and what other angle are vertical in that picture down at the bottom? Just write angle whatever you think it is. Say it out loud. I want to go through each one first, give you a chance to answer, then we'll go back and go over them. Go ahead and answer question 2. Angle 2 and what other angle or angles are vertical? Remember, vertical angles are across from each other, not next to each other. So question 1, we're answering what angle is vertical to 1. Question 2, we're answering what angle is vertical to 3. Question 3, says angle 4 is adjacent to what other angles? Answer that. Okay, we're looking at that picture down there to the right in the corner. It's got 4 angles. It's got angle 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what you're answering questions about. Okay, adjacent or next to each other, they share a side, vertical or across from each other. And then angle 1 and what other angles form a linear pair? So vertical would be like these 2 angles across from each other. Like right across, not next to, but across. Like that. All right, question number 4 again says angle 1 and what other angles form a linear pair? All right, I'm going to look at my picture. Here's angle 1. Does everybody see? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Does everybody see angle 1? Yes. Okay, angle what is vertical to angle 1? Which one is across from 1? 4. So guess what angle is vertical to angle 1? Angle 4. So that should be the answer to that first question. Also, when you write that, put your angle symbol beside it and then the number so that I know you're referring to an actual angle there. Question number 2 says what angle is vertical to angle 2? I'm highlighting angle 2. Which one is directly across from angle 2? Angle 3. So angle 3 is vertical to angle 2. Again, make sure you put your angle symbol in front. Angle 4 is adjacent to. Let me go back. If I'm highlighting angle 4, how many angles are right next to 4? 2. Which ones are on either side of 4? 2 and 3. Does everybody see that? Okay. These two are adjacent, angle 4 and angle 2. And these 2 are also adjacent. So we're going to put 2 and 3. Angle 2 and angle 3. Question 4 says angle 1 and what other angles are linear pairs? Angle 1 and what other angles are linear pairs? Okay, here's angle 1. Linear pairs are 2 adjacent angles that form a line. I heard somebody say it. 2 and 3, yes. 1 and 2 are a linear pair. 1 and 3 are a linear pair. So we're going to put 2 and 3 again. And then I'm going to give you some time to answer this last question. It tells me that the measure of angle 2 is how much? 114. So I would draw that on my picture. And then it wants you to find the measure of each other angle. What is the measure of angle 1? What is the measure of angle 3? And what is the measure of angle 4? Based off of that information. We just did that on the previous question up on the board. If angle 2 is 114 degrees, how many degrees if angle 2 is 114, how many degrees are the other 3 angles in that picture? Don't put this one on the way because we're going to kind of talk to you about how to set up a few of these. If angle 2 is 114 degrees, another angle is also 114 degrees. Which one is across? Angle 3. Okay. So if angle 2 is 114 degrees, so is angle 3. And how do I find out what angle 1 is? Subtract it from 180. And if I subtract 114 from 180, what do I get? 66? Is that right? 180? It can't be 86 because it's 114. It should be 66. Yeah. If you do 180 minus 114, that should give you 66. Everybody kind of okay with that? What do you mean no? No. What do you mean no? Look, so on this one, they gave me angle 2. They gave me this, whoops, trying to highlight it. They gave me this angle as 114. We learned that vertical angles are congruent, so that's the easiest thing to figure out. So you just go directly across. And so that means this angle is also 114. Okay. Now, to figure out that one, because these two together are a straight line, do you see, that means they equal 180 degrees. So what we did was we just took 180 and we took away that 114. And that's what the other two will be. Does that make a little bit of sense? Okay. Take a look at question number 4, please, for your homework. I want to help you set up a few of these before I let you work. Because we didn't do anything with variables in them. So I'm going to talk about it. So the very first thing I would ask you, we're going to find x here, okay? We're not plugging it back in, we're just finding x. We know adjacent angles, but we didn't really learn any rules about adjacent angles, right? And we learned a linear pair. We know that together they give me how much? 180. And then we learned about vertical angles, and those are always not 180. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what type are these? They're either going to be a linear pair. Alex, if you would listen, you might not have to ask me. Not when you're trying to. They are either a linear pair or they are vertical. What are these two? Are they a linear pair or are they vertical? They're what? Vertical. And what do we know about vertical angles? They're congruent. So if I want to solve for x, I'm going to set these two equal to each other. So I'm going to say 2x minus 10 equals 120. You can solve from there. Okay, let's look at 5. These two angles, are they a linear pair or are they vertical? They are a linear pair. So these two add up to equal 180. So I'm going to take the first one plus the second one, and I'm going to set it equal to 180 on those. Okay? Now let me talk to you about one more before I let you work. Look at 6. So let me ask you this question first. What's wrong with this one? What's different about this one versus the other one? It has a y. I have two different variables, okay? Can we solve equations with two different variables? Technically, yes, if we have two equations, but we want to stick to trying to keep one variable, okay? So what I want to ask you is look at the two angles that both have y's in them. I mean x's, sorry. Does everybody notice these are the two that have x's? What kind of angles are they? Are they a linear pair or are they vertical? Vertical. So I could find x by doing what to those two? Setting them equal. Okay. What I would do is first solve for x. So we're going to actually work through this one in its entirety. Go ahead and solve that for x. I'm doing part of your homework with you to try to help you out. Some of these are a little bit more confusing. You want to pick the two angles that have the same variable so that we can actually, bless you, set up some sort of equation and solve. Okay, we should be solving this equation for x right now. So what is x? 35. Okay, so that's one of my answers. But it also asked me to solve for y. So let me ask you this. What would these two angles be? A linear pair or vertical? These two are a linear pair, right? Could I maybe figure out what this one is now that I know x? Yeah, what can I do? I can just take it and plug it in. So I'm going to take that 35. 2 times 35 is 70. 70 plus 25 is going to give me 95. And so then, now that I know that angle, I can figure out what y is, because these two are going to add up to equal how much? 180, right? 95 plus y equals 180 because they are a linear pair. Like these two together make a straight line. That's my linear pair. And so then we'll just subtract our 95. Okay. So on a couple of these, you may have to find one of the variables first and then plug it back in. But you're always going to ask yourself, what kind are they? Are they a linear pair so that I add them and set them equal to 180? or are they vertical so that I just set them equal to each other? Okay, so that's how you're going to start with all of those questions. What kind of angles are they? Does that mean I add them, set them equal to 180 because they're a linear pair, or do I set them equal to each other? Also, there are questions on the back too, so don't forget to do the back part of that as well. You have the remaining time to work on it, which is almost an hour. Okay, so don't let me get a bunch of zeros on homework when you could work together while you're in class and get some help. Yes?